Tonight's guest on 10,000 Miles is Robert Clayton. I met Robert a while back here in Southlake through a fitness endeavor, going to a CrossFit gym, only to learn that he and his entire family are all world-class athletes and have performed at very high levels, including Robert playing arena football while I go back college and sort of a high school big guy, so to speak. I had a great time talking to Robert during this episode. He transitioned into building and real estate and all of these other things. He's a real get-it-done guy. But all the things he learned through sports, he's brought through his entire life. And now he spends a lot of time, in addition to all of that, raising others, helping them get their shot. So I'm excited for you to hear about it, learn more about Robert. So let's dive in. Hey folks, thanks for tuning into the show. You can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, the Podcast Index, and Podcasting 2.0. We'd really appreciate if you download Fountain, find us there, and support us via Value for Value. We hope you enjoy the show. Happy listening. Robert, good evening. Welcome to 10,000 Miles. How you doing tonight?
Hey, doing good, Vic. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Been looking forward to this. Sorry for our false start last week. For the audience, I no-showed Robert last week, rather. It's the first time in 26 episodes I've done that. We agreed via text to do it at a time, and like a dummy, I didn't put it on the calendar. So here we are. I'm imperfect, but I'm still here.
Well, I think I texted you, Vic. I was like, man, I was so nervous. I was sitting in there, and I got home. I was like, babe, you didn't make it, so we're going to reschedule. I needed it tonight, so it was all good, man. It was all good, brother.
Well, that's good, man. I'm excited to chat. Hey, Robert and I met, for those in the audience, we met many years ago through a gym, through fitness. Robert was a member at the time. You're going to hear about how he went on to buy that gym and quadruple its size and turn it into something really just amazing and all his passion. But the coolest thing that I used to like about going to the gym is that Robert started running an O-line program there, offensive line. And he was training high school athletes who were really trying to get better. And here I am. You guys probably can't tell, but Robert has a very strong presence. He's your typical O-line guy. He looks like he's game ready still. And I remember him doing push presses with like 315 pounds. And I was like, I just loved it because I just loved the way you were driving discipline in that. We're going to get into a lot of this stuff, but my point is I've known Robert for many years now. Audience doesn't really know you as well as I do, Robert. So why don't you take a minute and introduce yourself and tell folks what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely, Vic. Well, there's more to the story when I first went to the gym and met Vic, and we'll get into that later. But, I'm just a local guy out of here in Southlake. I met Vic at the gym, and, just an incredible guy, incredible story. Really got attached to him really quickly. Beyond that, I'm a local guy, so I do real estate. I use background in building, do a lot of volunteering within the community in terms of community service, trying to give back. Where we grew up, Southlake Carroll is kind of a national brand, so to speak, and it's a place that kind of shaped my whole life. So I try to give back as much as possible. Own the gym, and that's about it. I try to be a mentor to kids that I come up to as well.
Robert's very modest. If you know anything about Southlake, there's a giant football community here, and Robert played back in the day when we didn't have the field we have today, but he tells a lot of stories. Robert, you played football. Tell us about, walk us through high school and, your football through college and your career. And I want to jump in there first.
Yeah, sure. I mean, to tell you the truth, Vic, growing up, I wasn't a very athletic guy, and I'm still not an athletic guy. I come from a family of 5. I'm the youngest. I'm the worst athlete out of all of them, I'll tell you that. But really when I got into Southlake 7th grade, I moved in Southlake on probably about 93, 94. They had come off some state championships, and the best story I have was I was 7th grade. I was 5'6", 185 pounds.
Okay.
Come 8th grade, I was 6'1", 175. And so,
The weight had to
so
go somewhere. It went
that's
up.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
You know, unfortunately now it's gone this way. I stopped growing. So, but going into high school is really when I focused on football. I was a basketball player. I was being the youngest. You watched, my family. I had an older brother that always took me into the weight room from a very young age. Really taught me the grind, how to work. And then each sibling kind of taught me a little something different. My brother Chris, you know, he was just an athlete. No matter what he did, he always performed. Carey, we call Carey Bulldog. And Vic, you know Carey pretty well.
Love that guy.
He's a bulldog for a reason because he just sticks his nose in and he goes after it. He knows one
Great.
speed. My sister, she was an All-American in high school. She ended up playing out for TCU. Carey played in the NFL. Everyone played collegiately. So, I got a lot of good people to look up to. And then two amazing parents that really kind of put that discipline at a young age. So I think growing up, I wanted to emulate them. I didn't know what I was doing, right? I had no clue what athletics were, but I knew I wanted to be like them. And if I could be cool like them, I wanted to be good at sports. And so, really my path didn't take off really until probably my freshman year. I was a B team guy in 7th grade, 8th grade, and then really focused. And I tell all the kids I train now is, the first day I went out there for practice my freshman year, I had a guy come up to me and goes, "First day of pads, Rob, let's just kind of go easy on each other." And I kind of said to myself, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to take the easy way out. It's going to be a hard day for all of us. And so I think your mental approach, you kind of accept it. And then for me, it was just dedication, in the weight room. I didn't do other things my other friends did. I wanted to be on another path. I wanted to be a Division I football player. When I was in freshman year, I was a basketball player as well. And I wrote a letter to my brother Carey. He'd always kind of ridden me a little bit.
Yeah.
And I wrote a letter and I said, I'm going to get a Division I scholarship in basketball and football.
Okay.
I signed it and I gave it to him. And to this day, he'll say, "Where's that letter at, man? You didn't make it." I ended up quitting basketball our freshman year. But, my journey was incredible. I got to play for the best program in the entire country. When I came out of high school, I was fortunate enough to get several offers coming out of high school. Some big offers as well. Ended up playing with my brother at UTEP, Texas El Paso.
Yep.
Which was an incredible experience. People ask me all the time, what is it like in El Paso? I go, it is amazing. I absolutely love it. And we had a great time. Came in on my freshman year and we won the championship. We were with TCU, SMU, Ladanian College.
Yeah.
It was so exciting. We had, our last game to seal the championship was versus Rice.
Yeah.
There was
I'm going to slow you down a second here because I got a story I know about and I'm going to get to it.
Yeah.
But I want to reel you back into high school a little bit.
Okay. Yeah,
all right? Because we got plenty of time here tonight. So you're playing in high school and you were playing in some of the early glory days, right?
Yeah.
In the late 90s, right?
Yeah. So, when I came in, my brothers played with Bob Ledbetter, which is, he's the legend here.
Big time.
Basically started the football program. The field's named after Bob. And the funny thing about it is, Bob actually coached my father back in 1966 at Irving MacArthur.
Holy cow.
My dad was a freshman in high school and Bob was a first-year coach.
Amazing.
It's crazy how it worked out. And what was even crazier that when I was a freshman at Carroll, Ledbetter was my coach. And it was his first years in coaching, so it was really cool. My era was a kind of a transition. So we're kind of the dashed in between Ledbetter and Dodge.
Okay.
And we were transitioning from, I would say, the bone type offense, wishbone, triple option, into the spread. It was a tough transition, but it helped. We had a quarterback named Nathan Chandler. He was every bit of about 6'8", and he could throw it a mile long.
Wow, big dude.
huge. And, there wasn't a whole lot of scheming back then with the spread. It was a relatively new offense.
Okay.
We had a quarterback that, for 30 years has been under center. We went into the shotgun, so I was shotgun snapping, which was, when you talk about shotgun snapping,
You were a center in high school?
I was a center in high school.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so when I snapped, you want to talk about a foreign territory back then from the triple option. It is completely different. So, but it was neat. I learned a lot. It actually helped me prepare a lot better for college than just going from a triple option. During that age, a lot of colleges were moving into, run and shoot or, pro style offenses, inside zone type things. I'm not going to get too much jargon on here, but
all the jargon you want. People love it.
It was changing from the power game into a more wide open, pro style type of situation. And then high school was really the first one to transition into the spread. And you had a few other schools like Flower Mound Marcus doing it.
Yep.
And then we came around and it was great. We actually met, one of the biggest stories I have is our state semifinals in 1998. We started that year losing the first game versus Waxahachie, and everyone kind of counted us out. And back then we were in the same district as Grapevine High School.
Okay.
So Grapevine had a stellar team, unbelievable team. They had just won a state championship in 1996. In 98, they had a star-studded team, and we ended up actually beating them for district. We were district champs. We went, I think we went big school, or we went small school. They went big school because they were second.
Okay.
So that's Division I and Division II. And so Division II, they went Division I. Well, they ended up winning the Division I state championship.
Wow.
That being second place in our district. We went Division II. We made it to the semifinals, and we played against Stephenville. And back then it was in the old Texas Stadium. Okay. And so if you know anything about Texas Stadium, it had a huge crowd.
Oh, was it the last game at Texas Stadium?
Okay. Perfect. It was, it was a neat experience, but that game probably had about 55 to 60,000 people in it.
Crazy.
Just to watch us versus Stephenville. And Stephenville's coach was Art Browse. And so to give you kind of a thought about how good that team was, they had a receiver on Stephenville named Cody Cardwell. He had about 2,200 yards receiving his senior year.
Just a few yards.
Just a few yards.
Yeah, okay.
Old as a national record today, which is pretty old.
Holy cow. That's incredible.
And so, it was a brilliant game. We dominated the majority of the game. You can still see it on YouTube. They still have it saved, the whole game on YouTube.
I think I've seen it. I've seen a number of the old Texas Stadium games. There's an infamous, well, I don't know if it was there. Where was that high school game played where they came back from like a 35-point deficit?
That was Texas. That's Plano East, and I think John Tyler.
There you go. Yeah. Was that at Texas Stadium? Yeah. But that was unbelievable. I must have watched that clip, like the last 3 minutes, 100 times.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, just never to happen again. Ever.
No,
it's just
ever.
Crazy.
It was crazy. But it's Texas high school football. I will tell it, and I'll get back to the Stephenville story. My favorite time of the year is going up to Cowboy Stadium and just sitting all day and watching the games. That's like a perfect day for me.
Yeah, I bet.
But getting back to our game, it was an amazing game. We're leading with about, I think, 45 seconds left. They have to go 75 yards, and we know who it's going to. Who's going to stop it? And they won. They beat us. They go on to the state championship and win, I think, 35-40 nothing.
Okay.
Wow. So I say that because, gosh, when was that? That was 98. That was what, 20? How many years ago was that, Vic? 26 years ago?
Yeah, it's 26 years ago.
So 26 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, 2 years ago was one of the first times I ever sat down and watched it.
Come on.
I'm not lying. It was at my bachelor party, Vic. First of all, I'm a little different. My whole wedding crew, I ran 16 deep because I have a lot of brothers.
Yep.
My bachelor party was about 30 deep. And we had this huge house out in Oklahoma. It was beautiful. And we're sitting around that night. We're like, let's put the Stephenville game on.
That's epic.
We sat there, Vic, and we watched the whole thing thinking that there was going to be a different outcome.
Wait a minute, we lost this one, right?
Like, how did you lose this one?
Yeah.
And we get done with it, and we're like, oh my God, if so-and-so did this, or we would have done that. And it's just, that's sports. I mean, that's the theme of what sports does. It connects everyone. It still connects you, and it's
Big time.
It's a huge thing. So, yeah, I'm very proud I had that dragon on my helmet. I bled for the green, black, and white, and still do. So
yeah. So your brother went on, played at UTEP, right? Yep. And you overlapped there one year with him, right?
We did. Yeah.
And I know there's a legendary story under here.
Which one? Which one?
Well, do you mind if I tell it the way Carey told it to me, and you tell me if I remember it correctly?
You go ahead and tell it. You go ahead and tell it.
I might be getting it wrong, but I love the way I tell it. Just want to let you know. It's very.
I love these stories about my brother Carey. So go ahead.
I might have the made-for-movie version, but who knows? So he told me, he goes, he was center.
Yeah.
Right. He was playing center. And I don't think you were in the starting lineup. And it was one of the very early games. It could have been the first game, the second game. I'm bringing recall back here. And one of the guards, I don't remember if it was right or left.
Yeah.
Got chopped and got hurt very early in the first game.
Yeah.
And you get the nod. You get tapped.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now you're side by side with your brother in an overlap year. And he told me, he was a little worried about you, but he had a lot of confidence in you. And just a few plays in with you on the field, somebody throws a real nasty block at him, almost like an illegal block that probably could have taken him out and ruined him.
Yeah.
And he's like that mother son of a, and he goes and he turns around and you got the guy on the floor and you got your two hands down on him. Don't you ever do that to my brother ever again. And I don't know if I'm getting that right, but if it's the made-for-movie version, but it's the one I love.
Well,
how close is that?
It's pretty close.
Okay.
If that wasn't, I was probably like, yeah, I think Carey finally got a little bit of a beating versus beating up my whole life. I mean, geez, I was laughing no. But yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, I was 17 years old, Vic.
Holy cow.
And, I went out to, our first game was versus the Oklahoma Sooners, versus Bob Stoops, who was his third year. And if you remember anything about that Bob Stoops team, 2001, they won the national championship. And that same year, we go on and win the WAC championship, and we're pretty close to the top 25. We're right outside of it by the end of the year. Again, it was a tough game. It was about 106 degrees out there. As a 17-year-old, you walk into a situation like that and you're starstruck. You're looking around, what is this?
There's 80,000 people in the stands. It's crazy.
There's dogs running on the field, catching tees. You're like, what has happened? This is just nuts. People are throwing stuff on you as you walk into the locker room. And there's a lot of, it's an incredible experience. Norman, Oklahoma on a Saturday is.
Oh, it's my girls went to OU, so I get it. I get it.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But, our guard got hurt, got tapped out. And so I got pulled in. And, you think about what you're going to do this whole time, the play and everything, and they go, I'm just firing off the ball. But I don't know what to do. I just don't want to get embarrassed.
Yeah.
And so you fire off the ball, and I was lucky enough that I made some good contact on an All-American linebacker, and I was just a freshman, and I got him pretty good. And he gets up and starts talking smack, and Big Brother comes out of nowhere, which Carey did his whole life for me.
Yeah.
He still does it. All my brothers do it for me. I'm still the younger brother. You just got punked by a 17-year-old. How do you feel? And it was an incredible experience. I'm sitting there, I'm not sitting there, I'm standing there, and it's me and Carey. He's playing center, I'm playing guard. Our parents are in the stands. It's just one of those experiences. You're like, is this real? But it was, I'll tell you what, for my first college football experience, is one I never forget ever. And he still tells it to this day. So
Well, the funny thing, your brother went on to play in the NFL,
he did.
and I asked him of his entire football career, high school, college, professional football, what was his favorite spot ever? And he told me it was that year playing with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
When he told me, he said, nothing beat it
Yeah.
ever. Nothing beat it. He said that was just it. And they won. You guys won a championship that year, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was. I mean, I'll tell a lot of reason I went to UTEP was that opportunity to play with them. It's something I keep. You don't get that opportunity, and I loved UTEP. I loved the coaches. I loved the team. I loved all the guys. And Carey was such a dynamic leader. He was a team captain, and that was his year.
Sure.
He went through a lot of years of struggle with his teammates to get to the point where they were. And then I come in as a freshman, but it's one of the beautiful things about Carey is that, he always leads and brings you in to the pack and brings you part of the family. And that's what he did with me. And not only him, but my other brother was there too, Chris. He had just got done playing.
Oh, really?
3 Claytons on one team, but
that would have been on your parents would have been just over them. But like, this is the cheapest drive per child per head count we could have ever made. 3 kids, 1 game. What?
Well, you don't realize that when we're young. Now as I'm older, I'm like, that's a good deal for him. But
that's golden, big time.
But it was cool, when we beat Rice, he was the last few seconds of the game, and I look over my grandmother, my aunt, my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother, everyone's there. And my other 2 brothers were on the sidelines. And the whole 52,000 fans in the Sun Bowl, which, if you've ever been in the Sun Bowl, it is an iconic stadium. It is gorgeous. It is unbelievable. When it's packed, that thing is rocking.
Nice.
And so we had people on the mountain. And so people rushed the stands with about 48 seconds left. They rushed the field, took the goalpost out, ran it across the field, and the refs had to call the game.
Are you kidding me?
They called the game, and we're champions. And
unbelievable. Was it close?
It was no. It was
no. So you had it.
12-point game.
All right, but you had it. Yeah, 48 seconds, 12 points. You had it.
And so,
unreal.
Probably during Halloween too, and they had these big old jack-o'-lanterns they had carved, and all I remember is Carey running around with the jack-o'-lantern, poking on his head, carved out. Looks like the headless horseman or whatever it is, the football uniform. There's a goalpost getting thrown over the mountains, carried up the Sun Bowl stairs. It's just crazy. But
that's great. You talk about Rice, and you talked about your experience stepping into, a big stadium, a big college program. I grew up in the Northeast. If you've listened to any of my other episodes, I had a very short stint at college. I was in the music business, popped out of the music business, got into technology, worked my way into leadership positions. Blessed, lucky guy. Never had a big college experience until my kids had them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was before my oldest went to OU, and we wanted them to have a big school experience. We really did.
Yeah.
And so I had a buddy in town here who's an Aggie, and he's like, "Oh, well, I got tickets down to the opener. Aggies are playing Rice. You want to drive down to College Station?" I'm like, "Oh yeah." And it was a game. It was the game where Manziel was not fined. What do you call it? Penalized from the year prior for signing shit before NIL, and he had to sit out the first half of the first game. That was his suspension. Okay. And so honestly, reading all the press about Manziel, thinking he's a punk, thinking he's this, thinking he's that, like, I really didn't have an appreciation for what you guys went through and through a big college program. So we go there, and it's a reasonably quiet first half. And Aggies are up. Second half happens, kickoff, and the Aggies receive. Boom, in the end zone, comes out, right? And then Manziel walks on the field.
Mm-hmm.
He's back from suspension. It's Johnny Football. He's an icon. 80,000 people erupt. dude, I got the hair on the back of my neck standing up right now. Okay. All right. Erupt.
Yeah.
And at that moment, that I gave that guy every bit of grace anybody could ever get. I'm like, who at this age can handle this? And they're chanting, Johnny, Johnny, Johnny. 80,000 people. They're losing their minds. And this guy's got to go on that stage, on that field, in this community, big program, right? A&M's not a small program. 80,000 people are cheering this dude's name. And like everything made sense to me. It takes a lot to keep it together on all levels, athletically, physically, with your training, mentally, emotionally. There are so many aspects, and that's why some people make it all the way and some people don't, because it's not one thing. It's not just how you play the game. There are so many other things that happen, and there are so many moving parts. And it's really the truth in business as well, but more so in sports, because listen, there are probably, I don't know, 100,000 financial analysts in Dallas alone. There aren't 100,000 centers in Dallas. You know, the herd gets very thin when you're talking about athletics and playing, especially playing at the elite level. So I experienced from afar what you described at that Rice game. But it was at that moment that the needle of college football went into the proverbial vein of my body.
Yeah.
And I pretty much ditched the NFL. Like, it was at a time where there was a lot of personality coming out, and endorsements were through the roof, and people were fighting for their own, and personal brands versus team brands, and you know, personal image versus team image, me. And I went into the college thing, and it was completely the opposite. Right. It was like, this is the program, this is the school, this is the spirit. Everybody in the stadium is losing their minds. It's packed all the time. And if you lose, they still love you.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up in New York. If you ever go to a Jets or an Eagles game and you lose, it's bad news. You know, it's bad. The fans are not gracious.
You know, NFL loses that pageantry. You know,
yeah, big time.
It's that it's almost a high school field, but they're so proud that you're out there representing the university that you'll have your few non-sayers, but most of the time it's pretty positive. You know, and it's tough. You know, you talk about the demand on the athletes, Vic, and every year when I start my training with my linemen, you know, when he first met me, I had about 5 guys. I have about 60 guys in the program now. And, you know, parents always ask me, my kid didn't go to college. I go, well, I'm never gonna promise them that. There's a lot that goes into that. And it's more than just hiring me to help them. I'll sit down in there and I'll go, out of you 60, probably 1 or 2 are going to go play. Raise your hand, and I'll have them raise it down. 2 or 3 of you are going to be able to go play.
Yeah.
You know, now a lot of you can go play wherever you want, but you're talking about, you know, FBS big time football.
Yep.
It's a small percentage. I think, don't quote me, I think that the percentage is 3 to 4%.
Yeah.
Out of high school. And then you take a little bit, so you make it out of the 3-4%, Vic, and you go into college with all the dudes. Everyone you go and play with are you from your high school.
Yeah, or better.
Or better.
Right, yeah. So, it's all the studs. Right? It's all, so now you're a whole other level of competition. You're not a standout anymore.
And then less than 1% of that goes on in the NFL.
Yeah. You've gone
300 get drafted and 300 get undrafted.
Yeah. When I first moved to Southlake, Robert, I was like an assistant coach for the baseball league here.
Yeah.
And I'll leave names out because I'm not that guy, but I was an assistant coach to a guy who was he had a shot at being pro, and he made it so close to the big game, so close, and then he got injured, and he was out as fast as he was in. Okay. He was hardcore, man, on these kids. Yeah. They were 8. Right? They were 8. And he was, I mean, you would have thought he was coaching the Rangers. You know, I mean, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Very hard on these kids. And I said to him one day, hey, coach, How many of these kids on this team right here that we have in our team was called? I don't want to even tell you. That'll connect names for someone who might be listening. How many kids on this team right here are going to play in the major leagues? He goes, how about I give you one better? You want to know what percent of these kids are even going to make the high school team?
Right.
I go, what? He goes, on our team, one guy, maybe one. I said, so for everybody else, this is baseball, right? And he said, yeah. I said, let's try not to fuck it up for these kids.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like we have to balance, where they are, how old they are, the aptitude they have, some kids are still like looking and flicking grass in the outfield at that age, but he wants them all to run it's a Yankee training program, right? So
yeah.
It's hard. And as you move up, and I have a nephew who's a D1 lacrosse player.
Okay. So he knows.
And so, yeah, he knows, and he had to learn. He's got an unbelievable work ethic, but early he had all this natural talent. He was just kind of, hey, I'm really athletic. I'm really talented. Seton Hall Prep, high school. Whoa.
Yeah.
Everybody's talented here, right? The gym, the workouts, the nutrition, and I love the kid because he's got that fifth gear. Like, he's very coachable. You really, you could talk to him about this stuff, but I see that going on. I know you have it. I want to transition a little bit I want to ask a question. Then I want to talk about our meeting at the gym a little bit. And then I want to come back and talk about football post college, because I know you did some stuff post college. What is that drill called when you put is it called the ladder drill? You put the ladder on the floor?
Yeah.
One of my favorite times at CrossFit Impressions in the old location was seeing Carey come in like work clothes. He's wearing slacks. He's got shoes on, and maybe he's got his shirt unbuttoned, and you got the ladder down. How big is Carey? Is he 6'3", 6'4", maybe?
6'3", 6'4".
Yeah, big dude, probably 280, right? Yeah. He just bust out a ladder drill like he played last week. I'm like, what is this guy? This is unbelievable. And he's your older brother, right? Yeah. He hasn't been active in a long time. It's like, I came home. I was telling my wife that for like 3 hours. She's like, okay, he does. I go, no, you have no idea. This is the biggest, most graceful guy I ever saw in my entire life.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how he hit that drill. So, and all of, honestly, since I've been here, the high school football bug has bitten me. I get, try to stay involved as best I can, but not having kids in school anymore, I'm a little less engaged, but I still have my seasons, right? I still show up to games. It's still my best and favorite Friday night. And the community here is just a 10 out of 10 when it comes to, football and our environment and what you guys are doing. 60 kids, by the way, in your program now. You're right. There might have been 5 or 6 when you started this way back when. That's really outstanding.
Yeah, it's neat. It's neat, and it's a blessing. I mean, this is if there's a capital of football, this South Lake's pretty darn close to it. So, be able to teach what we love, and Carey too. I mean, Carey loves it, and whenever he can help, he will. And tell you about Carey. If you ever seen Carey dance, Carey has a lot of dance moves, Vic.
Does he?
The man can dance. And
nice.
So he's got some. He's pretty fleet-footed. He was fast. He was about a 4.9 40.
Wow.
He was a real quick dude. And so, and I watch him chill. I'm like, I don't know how you still have it.
He still has it. It's crazy.
My calf is cramping up. My hamstring's pulling, and I'm like, time out. I'm not doing it. Someone else demonstrate, but he's still
got it. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Hey, so tell me about post-college football. You played European League a little bit. Is that true?
No. Well, Carey played European. I played. So back when I got out, I was trying to make it to the camp. I almost got into the camp with the Redskins.
Okay.
Didn't happen. Gibbs was one of my brother's coaches back in. My brother played with the Chargers for a while.
Yeah.
And I'll get more on that, but I didn't make it in there. I didn't get a call. And so I started calling. Back then it was Arena football. So Arena 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did Arena 1, Arena 2, Indoor League.
Mm-hmm.
Arena 1 was really kind of a breeding ground where, you played in the spring and then you got picked up onto an NFL roster after the spring.
Okay.
And so when I didn't get picked up, I mean, But my dad taught me a lot of passion about recruiting and selling yourself. So I called every arena team. Um, and it's a pretty cool story. I graduated and I was going to get my real estate license. And
Yep.
so my sister was living down in Austin at the time. And I go, I just can't move home right now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to move down to Austin for a little bit. Two of my buddies moved down there. So I moved down there. And I took my game film and walked it into the Austin Wranglers headquarters.
Okay.
They're like, who are you? And I was like, hey, I'm Robert Clayton. I played at UTEP. Here's my game film. And I've been doing that with a lot of arena teams. And I was flying myself out to John Elway owned the Colorado Crush. So I was out there trying out for him. So a lot of stuff was proactive on my end. So I just went in there and gave him my film, and literally within like probably 10 hours, they called me.
Nice.
We want to sign you. And,
oh my God. I didn't know this part. This is great.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And so
walking through the door with your film, that's great.
Yeah. I mean, I've been talking to, so Carey was playing with the Columbus Destroyers then, which was Chris Spillman's team.
Okay.
Chris Spillman and I were talking an awful lot, and possibly getting on his team and maybe going up with Carey or trying to find a home for me somewhere. But then I went to Austin, I gave my game tape, and they literally signed me. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this is really happening, and you go, and I was playing with, former Heisman Trophy candidates, first team All-Americans. I'm not saying I was a slouch in college, but I wasn't an All-American. I was a 2-year team captain. I was a 3-year starter. I played.
Nice.
I was a good player. But your perspective when you go down there is like, oh my gosh, these are guys I used to read about, And then you're playing against them, like, well, it's not that much different, So I came into Austin on a 2-day waiver, and
what does a 2-day waiver mean?
So basically, you sign a contract saying that, hey, they're going to bring you in on waivers. Like, this is 2 days. We're going to sign you. We'll evaluate you. They will release you.
Okay.
They want to look at you, or they want to sign you to the team after that evaluation, or someone got hurt and they need a practice body.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
And so they'd already been in camp. They already been out of camp and everything, and they're getting ready for their first week. And so I tried my heart out. I was going so hard. I was playing tight end, defensive end, center, anything I could do, kickoff, and thought I did really well. And I got the cut. They bring me in. They're like, hey, we're cutting you. Okay. And I was like, all right. I don't know. I guess I'm going back to school now. I'm going to finish my real estate degree.
Yeah.
And so, so about 2 weeks later, they had their game that week, and then one of the guys got hurt. And so they called me like, hey, we want to sign you. And we're going to sign you to the roster. I was like, sweet, let's do it. And back then, we're not talking a lot of money, Vic. We're talking, as a rookie, you got paid $30,000 a year. And if you were probably a 2 or 3 year vet, you were making $75,000. And if you were a dude, you were making probably $100,000 to $200,000.
Okay.
Full benefits, you got your living paid for.
Yeah.
So it was a good deal. You only worked 6 months out of the year.
Okay.
And so it wasn't that bad. But in the hopes to go to the NFL.
Yeah, of course. Well, you got a training ground. You got more opportunity to be seen and develop. And some people pop into their prime, post college, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Look at Brady, for crying out loud.
Well, Kurt Warner.
Yeah.
Kurt Warner, he was bagging groceries at a grocery store, and then got a call in the indoor football league, the Iowa Barnstormers.
I just saw a little documentary on that. I don't know if it was a little clip on ESPN or if it was something else, but he was talking about that. It's pretty remarkable.
But it was cool. They signed me, and then once they signed me, it went through all the waiver wires. And so that week I had teams lining up to try to trade for me. And it was the craziest thing. I went from zero interest into 4 or 5 teams calling Austin trying to trade for me.
Wow.
I was like, I was flattered. I was like, listen, my dream would be, play 6 months, go do some real estate, maybe get picked up in the NFL. But I want to stay in Texas. That's where my license would be. And it was like, listen, that's kind of my MO. I kind of watched my brother go through the game in the NFL, and it's great to play in the NFL, but that was tough. It was tough on him. And there was
Yeah,
a lot
I
of
bet.
times I watched Cleveland Browns call him and brought him into the airport, the full, first round trip airplane ticket. And then when he gets to the gate, they tell him they're not going to sign him. And so we have to take him home. And so it was long
Just
story.
to get there, and he didn't actually get to suit up or do anything. He just turn around, come home.
Turn around, come home.
Well, I guess they changed their mind mid-flight.
Well, they do. That's what they do. I mean,
Really?
you have no. There's not a lot of power in it. I mean, it's a tough business. But it was great. I went and played and had a year with them, and I got done playing, and it got to kind of talk to myself. Carey's team, he was playing out in Nashville then with Tim McGraw. Tim McGraw on the team.
Okay.
And so he got to see Tim McGraw and Faith quite a bit. And
Nice.
his head coach was talking to me about signing with them because my contract was up with Austin, and I decided to hang it up. It was a tough one for me because I wanted to pursue it, but no, at that time I looked at guys on my team who were 32, 33 years old, and
Yeah.
they're chasing the dream, and they're getting called out to be a body at NFL training camp, and they're just going through the whole cycle. It's a vicious cycle, and maybe my career would have prolonged a little longer. Maybe it wouldn't have. But I knew in my heart it was time to go. So
I worked with a guy who had very big guy, probably 6'8", 300 pounds, machine, Ironman guy, did Ironmans, so still fit. He played college ball, and he was undrafted, but shortly after being undrafted, he got a call from a NFL team to join camp as they started camp. And they're cutting. It's a week before, the finals, so to speak. I'm not sure what the terms are. And he gets cut. Hey, real sorry, made it all this way. You're not going to get cut. What he said was that he decided to drive home. He had a car there. And rather than, he was going to sell the car and fly back, but he's like, I'm going to drive home. I'm going to drive home. It's a long drive. He was coming from Minnesota down back to Texas. And he said during that drive, he got to think about the entire experience, what he went through. And he said to me, from his perspective, he saw an absolute difference in the mentality of players in the NFL, from the veterans all the way down, and then what the experience he had in college. And his perspective was he didn't like it. And so he drives all the way home, and this is back before there were cell phones in cars. Okay, so this is pre-1988, okay? And he gets home, and his father says, you need to call this guy. Somebody got hurt. You're back in. Okay? And he called him up, and he said he took the entire drive. It took a number of days, but he had already got his mindset on where his life was heading and what he was going to be doing. And he was checked out. He was done. And so he called and he declined it. He declined it. My jaw hit the ground when he told me that story.
One of the best things I can relate this to, Vic, is the NFL. When you're kind of that fringe player, the NFL was like that one girlfriend you had that was extremely beautiful, knockout, and you chased her, and you finally had a little bit of relationship with her, and then she doesn't return a text for 10 days. And you're moving on, and then they call you.
Yeah.
Like, it's back on. And then it's not. And it is a love thing.
You had a girlfriend like that? I never had a girlfriend like that. Just kidding.
I
might have had a few, but yeah, I know what
I
you're
was
saying.
in the 90s and 2000 heartbreaks. Come on, bro.
Yeah, no doubt.
But, it's tough. It is a tough life. And you're moving constantly. You really think about it. You're in a place in San Diego. Say you're in San Diego playing.
Yeah.
Right. You get cut and you're mid-season.
Yeah.
The New York Jets call you. and you're going over the New York Jets. You're going cross country.
Yep.
You were there for a few weeks. You get cut. You get picked up then in Cleveland. I mean, look at what you're. I mean, it's tough,
It's tough.
and that's why the average. That's when pensions kick in the NFL. I think it's like 3 years, and it might be up to 4 years now.
Okay.
That's short. That's a very short time period. You know what I mean? Where you
Yeah.
qualify for pension, because the life
Wow.
of the NFL player is so short.
Very short.
Yep.
Unless you're a really great kicker.
Great kicker and a great deep snapper. My college
Yep.
roommate had a 14-year career. You should look him up. John Dornbos, great guy.
Okay. Oh yeah. Who did he play for?
He played for the Titans and then the Eagles. His story is absolutely incredible.
Long snap.
Long snapper.
Maybe you could make an intro. I'd like to have him on the podcast. That might be interesting.
He's an incredible guy.
That's cool.
But yeah, I mean, that's the nature of the game. It's just a business, and people, Pee Wee is fun. It can be if you're the right people around you, right? And then you start getting more competitive in middle school and high school. High school's so fun. You don't even have to play. You just love the pageantry of it.
Yeah.
College is a little harder. The next step, it's just a business.
Yeah, just a business. Makes sense. So you hang up your cleats.
Yeah.
You get your real estate license.
Yeah.
Right? You start digging in there. Were you doing real estate when I first met you? Yeah, you were. It was quite a ways in, right?
Yeah.
You were doing that. Was it always Clayton? Did you work for somebody else? Like, what were you doing?
That was it. So my father, always been my broker.
Okay.
And so he started as a developer. My whole family was developing. They did a lot of development out of Irving. And then my father built a few subdivisions in the early 90s here in South Lake. And
nice.
I came in as a kind of a builder as well, right after arena football and had my real estate license. And so I bought, at that time I was 24, and I bought some properties in South Lake and started building homes. We did a huge development out in Los Colinas. I started to the point I didn't really like the building side of it.
Okay.
I knew it all. I grew up in, and I grew up putting in sewer pipe and driving backhoes and,
That's what I'm going to do in my next life, by the way. I'm going to be a heavy machine operator.
I'll tell you what, nothing.
It's so much fun. It's like big Tonka trucks.
I'll tell you the best thing after a hard day of work on the Tonka trucks, a beer never tastes so good. I will tell you it is the best you'll ever have. I probably shouldn't say that, but
it's okay.
It's good. Yeah, it was fun. I learned a lot in that process. It's made me a way better agent today. And that's where a lot of my value comes in as far as an agent. And so, this year I'm probably year 18 as a realtor. And
wow. It's amazing.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So let's go back to the gym a little bit. So you do that, when I first met you, you were working out there, but then you sort of got more involved and you started wanting to really put your passion back into play, which was, helping raise others, meaning, starting this O-line program. I think you had just started it, right? When I, as I met you at the gym, what made you decide to do that? And explain to folks, like, what is an O-line program and what are you doing there with these kids?
Well, it's OLP. That's what we call O-line pride. I was an offensive lineman, so playing center guard tackle on the football field it's not a glamorous position. It is a grind. It's you don't get your name in the news. It's a tough spot, and there's not a lot of opportunity for guys really anywhere to get training. When I grew up, it was really lucky because I had my brothers, and I had to go fly out to UTEP and go train, and there's a hilarious story about that one too.
Okay.
And when I had the opportunity to come by the gym, Scott Jones came up to me and asked me, and we had a few talks, and he was the current owner, and I kind of sat to myself like, there's no way I'm doing that. It's just not, I don't have the time. I don't really want to do it. I really sat there and, I had started my lineman training program out of my garage in 2007.
Okay.
And then it expanded. We're bouncing from place to place. And then by 2012, it had kind of turned into a daycare where parents are dropping kids off, and that wasn't what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
So we kind of took a break for a while, and then when the opportunity with the gym came up, I go, this is a great opportunity. If I do buy it, then, it keeps me in the locker room. I think more than anything, these kids feel they're getting a lot of value out of me, but I'm getting just as much value out as them.
Of course.
It puts me back in that locker room where, I tell this to a lot of people, when you're done playing football, you're done. There's no going to play pickup football game.
Yeah.
I'm never going to go play right guard in a pickup football game at the rec.
Right.
I can try to go be Isaiah Thomas or Michael Jordan on the basketball court or go play. It just doesn't happen with football, and so, it was it's just a passion, I don't know where I would have been if, my brothers didn't do that for me. And so I look at it for kids as, if you can take a little bit of me and put it in, if you have this world or this life of your utility belt, okay?
Yep.
If you can just take one thing in here, and if you're coming to me just to go, you want to go play college football, if you can go play, and I can tell you pretty quickly if you're going to, okay?
Okay.
But more so is what you get out of it. One of the kids I trained at a very early age, he'd never played football. He was a sophomore in high school. His dad called me, wanted me to train him. Ends up being the starting defensive tackle for South Lake by his senior year, one of the strongest guys. Doesn't go play college football, but he's a brain surgeon now.
Amazing.
He wrote his entry paper about his experience with fifth quarter performance at the
5Q.
The 5Q program.
Yeah.
And he got his entire college paid for. And he went around on seminars kind of talking about that. And that's where you hope you affect kids.
Big time.
The next generation, and it's not easy and it's tough and it's hard. But a lot of these kids, I tell them, by the time you're 25, 24, you're going to come back and we're going to have a beer with each other.
Yeah.
And we're going to be friends. I'm going to get you your first house, Yeah. Which is crazy. Two of the guys I trained when they were in fifth grade, I just got them their house.
That's so great.
Isn't that crazy?
It's amazing.
And so it's just a cool thing about it. So you ask, kind of how that comes up and why that happened was, number one, I lived in a gym and I needed it in my life. Like there was something lacking, and I wanted it. I wanted the challenge, and I want to be around the guys again.
Yeah. We use that term in business too. Want to be in the locker room.
Yeah.
We use that analogy. As a matter of fact, I work with a guy who was part of a big deal that happened. The company got purchased and he had a 2-year non-compete. And we were trying to bring him back into something we were doing. And it didn't take much coaxing. Like he had plenty to retire. He didn't need money. He had his life set up. He's got his place on the beach in Florida. He's got a place in the Greenbrier, like a beautiful golf course, great community. Like he's completely set. And when he said he wanted to do it, he said to me, "Yeah, I just want to get back in the locker room."
Yeah.
What he said, I just love being in the locker room. So I get it. I totally get it. When people talk to me about retiring, it's like an odd concept for me.
Why?
It's probably even why I started this podcast. I mean, I just like having my brain active. This is the locker room for me.
Sure.
This is an extension of the locker room for me. These podcasts is me. I'm talking about people's experiences. I'm trying to find and dissect clues to leave behind for somebody who's listening to go, holy cow, that's cool. I could do that too.
Yeah.
Or wow, it wasn't easy for Robert. He wasn't, 6'3", 245 in 8th grade. He just, he had a fight. And then all of a sudden he was blessed with the growth spurt and great family. But, he got taught the ethic.
Yeah.
Got taught the work ethic and then the grind. And, from the bulldog, he had the bulldog, so it was like a lot of stuff to pluck out. I used to think when I worked in corporate America that you worked until you had barely any flesh left on the bone and then you retired and did nothing.
Right.
But as I've become wiser and then I got into, the side of the business I'm in now for the last 8 years, more independent, I realized that's not the way it works.
Yeah.
the way it's going to work for me is, there's going to be a point where, my calendar is pretty much going to be clear at noon on Friday. And honestly, that's the way it is now. It's blocked out. Now, I will take a call or meeting or do something if the bell needs to be rung, right? So it's reserved for must do's, very important, got to do follow-ups. But typically at Friday at noon, I'm done. Eventually, all of Friday is going to be done. And then down the road, Monday at noon, I'm going to be checked out. And then further from there, Monday is going to be off the calendar, right? And I'm just going to contract. And this will be over many years because I love what I do. There is a community inside of the technology space that I'm in. That's great. I have amazing customers and clients that have become friends, and invite them to play golf and take a trip up to Iowa, and we're out into North Carolina or into Florida to see them and do some work, and then have a great dinner and socialize and share, information and knowledge. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun. So I get it. And I understand why you wanted to be back there and doing it. So hats off to you, because, for folks that don't know, it's called Texan Fit. It's in South Lake, Texas. Robert has done an amazing job there of transforming what was the once small and mighty CrossFit Impressions into like a real formidable community of fitness, family, and healthy lifestyle. So
Well, thank you.
really great. The place has just such an amazing vibe. I like that Zamboni you got. No, I like that Zamboni you got for cleaning the floors. That little mini Zamboni. That thing's awesome.
Gosh, during COVID, we had a blast with it. I shaved my head, put it in a mohawk, and I was doing. There's videos of me trying to keep the clients engaged of Disney tunes, driving it and singing to it. I was doing anything I could just to keep involvement.
Keep it alive.
It's going to be in the Hall of Fame one day here.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you something. If that was on YouTube, you'd have your own channel. People would be watching you.
I know.
Run that thing around the floors.
It's pretty funny.
Tell me about your real estate business. Like, what are you doing? Where do you specialize? Who should be reaching out to you?
Yeah. I'll tell you, I think my real estate business has matured as I've matured. To be honest, I think there is a lot to it as you get older, you gain more experience. And I think that's a big thing, especially in our industry, is out of South Lake alone, there's 6,000 agents, right?
Holy cow.
And so who are registered out of South Lake.
You think they all live here?
No, they probably office out a certain broke.
Okay. I was going to say, there are only 34,000 people in the whole town?
Yeah. Well, this is like, South Lake's kind of the major hub of real estate agents because there's a lot of real estate around here,
Yeah.
With that being said, you got to find a way to provide value. And I'm not a corporation. I'm not a major business. I'm a mom and pop. It's really my sister and I. My father passed away a few months ago, and so it's really.
Oh man, I'm sorry. Why didn't I know that?
It's okay. And we're trying to transition the business to ourselves now, and we're doing new things. I think with anything paramount is the principle of the value. So, what value do I bring as a small mom and pop company to you? I think is number one, it's reliability, it's trustability, and trying to find a niche and do things that are a little bit different. When I come into a house, I can actually, see what is the vision of a remodel, building plans. What's the vision here? I think the vision of everything, and then the marketing plan is pretty dynamic. And so, for us, we're looking to grow, and so that's another big challenge I'm putting on myself and my sister is, over the next few months, we're going to be growing for the first time ever.
Okay.
I feel like our brand is there. I feel like where we're at in the community and in terms of where we want to go. And we're not saying let's go be, nationwide or global, but let's keep getting quality people underneath our belt so we can give quality service to clients and a love for my athletes. My sister and I are former athletes. And so I tell my clients, you're working with people that are at a high level. Just kind of
Yeah.
coincides everything we're talking about is if there's no one any more competitive than us,
Yeah. It's not going to happen.
it's not going to happen. And we fight for our clients and we develop great plans and we execute them. The biggest thing I tell my clients is, a dream is just a wish without a plan.
Yeah. That's right.
And so, when you have other people telling you, yeah, we'll sell your house, we'll do this, or anything in real estate, if someone doesn't have a plan and doesn't have a way to execute on it, just like here at the gym or anything that anyone does in your industry, that
Yeah.
you can't shoot from the hip, that only lasts you so long. So,
Yep.
I think for us, it's just, the industry's dying for those type of agents. And I think, especially with the climate where the industry is right now, what changes we've seen over the last year, it's even more valuable. So,
Yeah, I'll tell you what, and you didn't mention it, but I know had we talked more on this topic, you'd mention as well. Nobody's more plugged into this community than you are and your sister. I mean, you guys got stories of the old grass on the old field from the 90s. You know the schools, the people have come through the schools, the community, exactly what it has to offer. And I'm sure you sell real estate outside of South Lake. But when it comes to South Lake and it comes to sort of the legacy here and continuing that on and all of the things that are great in this community, nobody knows them better than you. So whether you're somebody's, you're representing a seller or there's a buyer coming into the community, I think you guys have that distinct advantage.
yeah.
And the community is just an amazing place. I mean, you've been present when I start talking about the community, and here I'm 17 years, I still get choked up about it because, I grew up in a 64 family apartment building in New York. Great place, had a great upbringing, sense of community. But what we've been able to provide for the kids here and the experience in the school and the camaraderie and the community has been unbelievable. My nephew Jack lived with me for the past year, and he's a New Jersey kid. Great kid, very, very smart academically, was playing golf, pardon me. Went home, and you know what he brought home with him? Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. And my sister-in-law was like, he's there, picks his plate up, washes his plate off. Now, listen, I got him during the 16 to 17 where there's some natural development coming on anyway.
Sure.
But I said to him, hey, Jack, I hear you pulling out the old yes sirs and no sirs when you were interviewing for a job. He goes, got to show him my Southern hospitality. He goes, he's a very funny kid. He's great, but he picked up some great things here just in 1 year. My son's like that. My son is got a lot of this stuff from this community and this school. We grew up very respectful in my family, but everybody was either aunt or uncle. Even if you weren't an aunt or an uncle, you got called aunt or uncle. My father had a friend. Hey, Uncle Frank, Uncle whatever, that was the respect. Here it's the yes, sir, the no, sir, the shake of the hands, all the really cool stuff that happens here. And so this community has been great to us. And you have been sort of a bit of a beacon for the last number of decades here and really knowing what's going on. And I love going to the Hall of Honor stuff and watching the crew get together, and I get jealous. I'm like, man, I want to be in this crew, but I'm just too old, number one, and number two,
Yeah.
I'm a transplant. I wasn't here, but it's cool, and I'm glad to be a part of it. I think that's a massive edge for you guys. I'll continue to spread the word if I know of anybody looking for anything here. But if people are listening, man, this is the guy to reach out to, Clayton and Clayton Real Estate here in town. You're going to get an A level of service, and you're going to get somebody grinding, and he's going to right guard the shit out of people for you. So it's going to be good
by nature. But
that's exactly.
You mentioned about being from South Lake, and it's great, but what I love about South Lake more than anything, Vic, is that this place needs as many people that wants to come here and experience something great. And that's what South Lake is about. It doesn't matter if I've been here for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, or someone's been here for 2 years.
Yeah.
You've got to open your arms and say, if you let this community be what it's intended to be and what it's designed to be, it is an incredible place.
It really is.
It is a place that your kids can be safe. Your houses are going to appreciate. You're going to get a great education.
Yeah.
You're going to have everything at your fingertips athletically. People are going to go to bat for you,
And scholastically.
Yes, I mean,
And scholastically, the education program strong.
Carroll Vista School.
Yeah.
Incredible. And the medical school, they have, a medical academy. There's so many things here that are so positive. And, if you do come here and you're here, just take a moment and enjoy it.
Yep.
Really soak it in, because once your kids are gone, there's not a place that's, I think any more special. When I used to get recruited by college coaches, used to fly in, and I took it for granted. They'd be driving down Dove, going down to Lonesome Dove, where I grew up on the lake. And it would be in the middle of the springs, and the trees would be overflowing the roads. It would look picturesque from a movie. And they'd be like, this place is absolutely gorgeous. And I'd be like, I was 16 years old. I was like, this is South Lake. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But as I get older, and I've had nieces and nephews go through here and I haven't graduated. Some are still here. It's just an amazing place. And I tell anyone, if you're not here, get here as fast as you can, because it's an unbelievable place.
Yeah, it's super cool. Super cool. Hey, let's, I want to pull a little lightning round, little end of our chat here tonight.
Fair enough.
Topic is failures and comebacks. All right. And I know as an athlete, you've got many things. What comes top of mind that, maybe something that happened in your life that you learned from a failure and how you came back from it, and maybe share if there's an opportunity where you still think about it and how it's, been able to be implemented in many areas of your life. Anything come to mind there?
Yes, I think it's funny. I mean, Vic, you're going to get me a little emotional, but, the constant question I hear a lot from people are, you played athletics, you were a great player at Carroll. You didn't make it in the NFL. Did you get hurt? What happened? What was it? And I was okay with saying I just wasn't good enough. And that's okay. It doesn't mean you're a failure.
Yeah.
I wasn't good enough. But I'll tell you, in my mid-20s, I'm 43, 42. I don't even know how old I am. My wife is going to kill me. I'm 42. But in my mid-20s, I didn't know my identity, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know who I was. I wasn't the football player anymore, right? I couldn't walk into a room and command a room just because that dude's a player.
Yeah.
He has to go play in the NFL. That wasn't me anymore. I got lost, man. Like, it was tough. It was tough. And I spent a lot of nights, upset, hurting, like, where's my life going? What's happening? I'm doing real estate. I'm doing all these things. I don't know where I'm at. And that one kid I trained for the first time out of my garage, who ended up becoming a brain surgeon,
Incredible.
Connor Reynolds. And he changed the trajectory of my life, I feel. Just with, man, you have another purpose too.
Yeah, of course.
Just because you don't make it as an athlete doesn't mean you can't change someone's life. And that you can't change it for a different reason. They don't have to go to athlete. Just being there for them as a mentor.
Of course.
And that's helped me so much. And I talked to a lot of people who are going through athletics now. The same thing is, man, your journey might not be, a 5-time Pro Bowler in the NFL. It might be helping that one kid who's never going to play football in his life, but he becomes a brain surgeon.
Yeah, that's just incredible. I love that. Hey, probably something in your, whether it be football, whether it be the real estate or the building, networking. How have you found, how important is networking to you professionally, or what was it through your football experience? What do you find the value of networking is there?
Well, number one, you've got to find a sphere or something, right? You got to find a sphere. I'm really big on spheres of influence.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to find some type of sphere to pluck from. And whatever that is, time is the most precious resource we have. And if you use your time correctly, you can get a lot of people just networking alone with it, just knowing your name. I tell anyone with the real estate who comes to me about real estate, I say, go get a sign out. Go get a sign out in the front of a house. No one knows who you are unless they can't see your name. And no one is going to know who you are if you don't get out of your house.
Yeah.
If you don't get out of your office, if you don't go meet somebody, if you don't do those little things to go spread the word of who you are, especially in a place like Southlake, everybody wants to know what you do, you know? And so
100%.
and I think, you've got to network, and you've got to find your own niche, your own sphere of influence, and you got to attack it.
Love it. One last topic, and I know you're going to love this.
Yep.
Mentorship.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You touched on it a little bit, but how would you suggest people find a good mentor if they're looking for one?
Oh,
There's a B part of this question, by the way.
you've got to find someone that cares as much as you do. I think you've got to find someone that wants to truly help for the right reasons. Not for money, not
Yep.
for gratitude, more of a servitude. They have to have a serving heart. They have to have the ability to want to help, and they've got to be reliable. They've got to be able to count on them when you need them. And a mentor is so many things. It's so many things, and you can spend a lot of time as a mentor trying to figure out, how do I reach this person? How to reach it? And you might fail several times, but they are listening. Whoever that person is listening, and you got to be willing on the other side too. If you want that mentorship, you got to be vulnerable.
There you go. I was going to say, I had a boss tell me once, and this really applies to mentorship, but he didn't tell me this in the light of mentorship. He was talking to me about leadership, and he said, hey, it's 50-50. He said, and he goes, some days you're 51, some days they're 51. He said, but on average through the year, it's 50-50. The performance of the person who worked from you, they've got to be in it as much as you're in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they're in it, it's really 100-100, but he described it to me this way. Like if they're putting everything they have in, you need to match it, right? As a mentor. And if your mentor is coming to you, or your leader, or somebody who's helping you rise your stock and your brand and then your career is putting in more than you are, that's going to dissipate. So you have to show up. And you touched on that. The B part of the question is, what's the key attribute for you when you think about mentoring other people as you're doing through your OLP? What do you think about when you want to be say, hey, I want people to think I'm a good mentor? Like, what are the key principles there? Like, what do you want them to take away about you?
I think number one, honesty. I'm never gonna tell you what you want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna tell you how it is. I'm gonna give you tough lessons. I'm gonna get on you, but I'm also gonna respect you. And
it all comes from the locker room, by the way. I love this.
100%. And they've got to know that they can be coachable, but I've also got to understand them. They've got to know that I'm just not dad talking to them. I'm not that Muppet baby voice saying they can't hear me. When they get done, I want them to be able to say, man, this dude was hard, but he helped me, and he heard me, and he told me how it was, and I want those kids to understand that when they go out in life, that it's going to get hard. It's going to be just like me in my mid-20s when it was tough, and you're going to have someone to fall back on. And me, I fall back on a 16-year-old kid, the funniest thing about that about Connor, and we got to leave after this probably, but I said, I'm taking you through one workout. And it was out of my garage, and I go, I was like, there's no way he's getting through this workout. I mean, it's one of the diabolical workouts. And I
Ben said about me, by the way, my first day of CrossFit
really?
Impressions, but that's a whole other podcast.
Well, and I go, you get through this workout, and if you don't show up tomorrow, don't ever show up again. And I go, I'm not doing this, and I'm not going to do this as a charity case. Just on you. If you don't have the time and the will to do it, I'm not going to do it. And so that next day, I'm sitting in I don't think he's going to show up. I'm sitting in my room on the computer doing some real estate stuff. And I think we started our session at 7:00 and it's 7:30. And I turn around and he's in my doorway in my room. I'm like, what are you doing? And he goes, I'm here for the workout. I've been sitting in the garage for 30 minutes. And I go, why did you text me? He goes, I didn't want to bother you. And I was like, never missed the workout.
Too funny. So, that's great.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man.
Great story.
Yeah.
Hey, man, thank you a million times for coming on tonight. I could go another hour. This is great. I really enjoy it. Honestly, it's like just catching up with you, which is what exactly what I hoped tonight would be like. But great stuff. Super appreciate it.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks, man.
Bye.